Hi everyone! So recently Minecraft Dungeons launched and I got a chance to play it a little bit here with my first character. This is level 30. I just went up to that in like a few hours yesterday, trying out the game a bit, and I want to show you what this is about. So this is just like Diablo and PoE with like the same like base concept, this isometric view, and you point to click and move your character, and you have like different items, you can find different loot and so on, and kind of customize your character like this. But it's overall a very simple game, and there's not really that much, like in terms of talent trees or something, doesn't exist at all. There's like no spells, and also your inventory management is rather simple. So this is a nice game to kind of like get into the ARPG genre, and maybe you can convince your friends or whoever to try it out as kind of like a beginner's game in like as an entry towards this genre to eventually maybe play other games like that. But here I'm going to give you a nice overview of what there is in this game, what you can expect, and just how everything works together essentially. So here we can begin. This is the town right now. So it's rather small. You have like a blacksmith, you have a wandering trader, and this is the inventory. So your items are a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, and an armor piece, and this is all you have to equip. And then there's these artifacts. So there's no skills, there's no classes or talent trees or anything here, but essentially your special abilities come from those artifacts, which are also items, but they go into those separate slots. And you can use them on the cooldown. There's also some that require souls, that's a bit like VAR skills in PoE, and you can only use them after getting like a certain amount of kills, but otherwise you can just like wait for the recharge of the cooldown and use those abilities again. And yeah, there's like different item types. So you have like, for melee weapons, there's glaives, there's eternal knives, there's like daggers, there's sickles, there's hammers, and so on. And each base type has like its own behavior, so to say. So they do like certain combos, for example. So this glaive has like, there's 2 hits, and then it has like a wide swing, and then the combo repeats. And this is similar for most of the weapon types, unless there are also some that don't have any combo that uses a continuously attack. But essentially you can optimize your gameplay a bit by using exactly like the right swing for the right situation, and then like just repeats over and over. And also the same with the bows, for example. Everyone in this game has a combination of melee and range build, so there's no pure melee, there's no pure range, although you can kind of like ignore the bow if you want, or you can ignore the melee if you want. There's also like these different bows here essentially. So there's a hunting bow that like gives you like some special ability for your pets. There's a scatter bow, which I like. It shoots like 3 arrows, for example. Then there's bows that you can charge for like a bigger arrow, and so on. So there's also a little bit of gameplay involved for that. And the same with the armor. There's also like some pieces that give you like special effects, like cooldown reduction, movement speed auras. This one is also movement speed aura, but it also has a weapon damage aura, but you have longer roll cooldown. So this means that you can like kind of like dodge or roll away like this, and it recharges every few seconds, and you can do it again. So this is that. There's also like a potion that you can use. I think it's 45 seconds cooldown that heals you for a lot. And then you can just activate those artifacts here. And for example, now this is a fire quiver, and I get like fire arrows. The thing is with fire, or with arrows in general, you have like a limited supply of arrows. So you can't just spend them forever when you're trying to do an archer build, but you can see here's your ammo, and it goes down as you shoot. And you can find more arrows on the ground, and then you can shoot more, but generally you want to save those arrows for like the big enemies, the boss, and so on, or like when you have to snipe some dangerous enemies in the back, and then you kind of like go between melee and range most of the time, unless you really try to specialize on one of them. So there's a way to play like a pure archer build, which is what I'm doing actually, and this is with the Infinity enchantment, and this leads us to the next point, the enchantments on the items. So essentially every item drops with like a random selection of bonus abilities. So here we have like a fresh drop, for example, and you can select 1 out of 3 enchantments here every time. And this one is Infinity, there's Power, there's Rapid Fire, so this gives you like an attack speed bonus, this gives you a damage bonus, and this gives you a chance to replenish arrows. So with tier 3, you essentially double the arrows that you have with this, and this is really useful. because you can like just keep shooting much more arrows, and if you want to play kind of archer build, then you need this essentially. So there's also the other stuff that has like a little bit of a special effect. For example, here, radiant shot, chance to spawn an area that heals allies. Here's a chance for arrows to ricochet. Here's a fuse shot, which I also really like. It's like every few shots you get like an explosive arrow that deals some AoE. Yeah, and it's like similar for the armor pieces. For example, here we have a cooldown reduction, so it's like very passive. Here we have Potion Barrier, which is extremely strong. It gives you essentially like 9 seconds immunity after using the potion. This is extremely nice to have in a chest. And there's like similar stuff like this for all these items that you find. And you can level up those enchantments with those enchantment points. So these are the purple ones. You get like 1 every level, and then you can just spend them on the items. And you see here right now I use 12 on my bow, 12 here on the chest, and 5 on my weapon. And if you want to get those points back, you have to salvage the weapon. So it's kind of like one of the issues of this game, that if you want to try something new, like you find this new bow on the ground, and it's like, no, I really like those abilities, let's check them out. You actually have to get rid of your old weapon before you can really use the new one, because this is the only way to get back those enchantment points. So, as you progress, you get more and more, but the stuff also costs more. So it kind of like evens out, and then eventually you can have like multiple enchantments. Like right now I'm level 30, and I have like, items that have 2 enchantments regularly, and then there's even like a 3rd slot, which I'll probably find later on. But so far I haven't found a single item. Yeah, or you just get items that have like only 1 enchantment slot, and you have to pick like one of this, and that's about it. For the artifacts, that's not so bad. So you essentially just equip the highest item level 1 of whatever you want. So like everything has like an item level, and that kind of scales up the base damage on the weapons, for example. And you see that there's like a big difference here between this level 40 crossbow and my level 30 crossbow. So this is like 44 damage, this is 70 damage. So I will probably have to go with this one here. And then, like this is the same for all the other items as well. The armor gives you a lot more health. And, there's like armors with like 300 health here, for example, and so on. And with the artifacts, essentially you can just keep one of each of like the highest level that you have. So you can swap it around a bit and try it out, for example. And there's like, abilities like I have like boots of swiftness, which I really like. It's like a nice speed burst, and with my cooldown reduction I can have this essentially like all the time. So I just walk around like this, and when I activate it I go like, I don't know, twice as fast. So that's pretty handy. You have those flaming quivers. This is pretty nice for my character right now, because it gives you bonus arrows. So you activate this and you see like the regular arrows are replaced with burning arrows. And with this infinity mod proccing on those arrows as well, I can essentially just shoot arrows the entire run, and I never have to worry about my ammo. So this is pretty neat. And there's like some other stuff. There's like a horn that pushes away enemies. This actually is better than what you would suggest, because like there's a lot of like environmental effects, or like cliffs where you can push enemies down, and this is also like a really good way to defeating them. And like especially like some harder enemies can be pushed down there and be disposed of quite easily. Then there's like stuns. There's like a totem of shielding that gives you like a bubble around you that protects you. He has like a kind of like a shield wall ability, and he's like another AoE stun, and so on. So there's like some stuff here. You don't really have a stash, but there's also, I think, unlimited inventory space. So you can just keep one of each artifact, and then whatever, like the strongest weapon you have, and that's about it. Otherwise, you just salvage it. So there's like a user's bow here. You press this button, and you get like 26 of these emeralds. And you can use this to gamble for loot. So you go to the blacksmith here, for example, and you can buy a random piece of gear. So it gives you like either a melee, ranged, or an armor slot. And you hold this here, and then it gives you something. And the same with the Wandering Trader, which gives you artifacts for double the price. So it's like random, you get something here. So whenever you feel like you're kind of like falling behind on your gear and you're not really getting much, you can spend the emeralds to try and get an upgrade. Otherwise, when it's going fine, just save them up until you might need them later on, and that's about it. The thing is, there's no trading in this game, so you can't even trade between your own characters, you can't trade to other players. And if you want to make another kind of like build, then you have to make a new character essentially. Or you just collect those items until you have everything ready, like the artifacts, the weapon, the ranged, and the chest. And then you can just swap everything at once essentially. So you need to salvage the old gear to enchant the new stuff, and you don't lose anything with that, but the old item is gone obviously. So you can, like just save stuff in your inventory until you feel like, no, okay, now I don't want to do bow character anymore. I want to go like, full tank melee kind of character. So, just wait until the stuff drops, and then you can like swap once you have the right enchantments and the right bases and so on. Yeah, and here is like the mission select, is like the map. And if you go through the game, you essentially progress through those different maps here one at a time. And there's like 9 different runs. And here at the end, you feel like this Arch-Illager, it's like the end boss. And then it starts over on the higher difficulty setting. So it goes from default to adventure to apocalypse. It's a little bit like normal Nightmare Hell in Diablo 2. And here we essentially progress the same way. And then right now I'm in the second difficulty, right at the start. And you can also select like additional like power levels of the enemies. So it kind of makes everything a little bit harder. So you have like a difficulty multiplier, which I believe is for both the HP and the damage. And it gives you like a recommended power level. And then when you go for the higher difficulty, it gives you like higher potential loot drops. So you can find like really high level items, but obviously it's going to be quite tough. So especially at the start, and you're like an experienced player, you can definitely, bump up the difficulty a bit. And then, like if you're like falling behind and it's kind of like getting a drag, then you can like lower it. And if you just run the default difficulty of whatever this zone is, you should not have much trouble. And then, if it's going well, then you can scale it up a bit to get better loot essentially. So, typically I'm just running somewhere between like the difficulty 3 and 5. And, when you get like some super crazy upgrades, then maybe you can go to the hardest one. But yeah, like you see, my power right now is 33. This recommends 62. And it will be quite tough to actually defeat this stuff here. So I think like, for example, this whole like the second difficulty setting of adventure goes up to 62, for example. You see the maximum is still the same here. And like the maps kind of like start at another minimum. So, here we start at the first, and then here's like the second, and this is the third, and so on. And then it kind of like progresses up this way. So I still want to go like from left to right on the map and progress towards the end. So and when you're in an actual run, you kind of like, hack and slash your way through the map. And you also have this overlay that shows you where to go, and you can kind of decide, to go and explore the sites, go like left and right, off track a little bit. There's sometimes like loot chests that you can find, or like supplies chests, and you get like a bunch of arrows, and you can find like consumables on the ground. There's like a strength potion that gives you like, I don't know, double or triple damage for a while. There's like a swiftness potion and stuff like this. There's some food items that give you a health regeneration, but otherwise you just use the potion for that, or maybe some healing from your weapon. So that also exists, and then you just progress your way through. So you always want to select a difficulty where you can comfortably progress through without really dying. You only have a limited amount of lives, and if you die once in solo, then 1 life is gone, and you can do that like 3 times or so, and then it will fail to run. So especially on the boss, you should aim to have a bunch of arrows and some lives left, because some bosses can be quite tough. But otherwise, as long as you're paying attention and dodging like the dangerous like explosions and this stuff, then you should be fine. And especially on lower difficulties, you don't get one shot too much. But on higher difficulties, it can be quite difficult to survive and actually defeat enemies, because they have a lot of HP if you're not super strong. So be a bit careful about that. But generally, if you want to progress, you just rush towards the boss, and typically you can tell which direction to go just from looking at the map. And there's also like some little pointer indicators showing you where to go and what the quest objectives are. So this is rather simple. You're not really getting lost. There's actually an incentive to rerun the same map if you would like to get certain items. So every map has designated item drops essentially. And you can see this here when you go on this map, and then it tells you, for example, it drops a sword, and it drops wolf armor, and here like these artifacts like boost of swiftness and death cap mushroom and so on. And you can farm this map specifically to get these kind of drops. And like if I want to get like a certain bow, for example, here's like short bow, long bow, trick bow, heavy crossbow, and so on in this map. So there's like lots of range stuff if you like to have one of these. For example, here there's like scatter crossbow, which I really like. So I will probably farm this for a little bit, and then just wait until you get a bunch of those, and you have like a variety of enchants. And then you can kind of decide for the best one that you want, and then you can keep progressing. So this is something you want to do. most likely on the last difficulty if you want to kind of like flesh out your build in the end. And you know, for the most part, you can just keep progressing with whatever you find as you go through the campaign, and you should be fine as long as you choose you know, the good items, the right enchants and so on. There's some stuff that is rather useless, I feel. There's some stuff that's like really OP. So yeah, we'll see if I can cover that at some point maybe. But yeah, there's definitely, you know, better and worse enchantments to take. Depends also, you know, on what kind of like synergies you have. If you're like really tanky, if you're really squishy, if you're more ranged. And maybe if like a really fast weapon that can benefit from procs a lot. Maybe a really slow weapon that benefits from like, you know, hard attacks and so on. So, you know, it also comes a bit down to that. And this is about it for the basics of this game. And right now I am enjoying it, but I don't really know, you know, how far or how long this will continue. So I expect not really a lot from the end game. There is like more content coming, but overall it seems like you just go through the same game like 3 times, and then at the end, you know, there's not really a point to grinding it out. I think, you know, there's like very little customization. You can do that, but you can't really swap your build around without swapping your character or deleting all of your old gear. So that's kind of like problem with this. And you kind of have to start over from level 1 if you want to make like a different kind of character. So we'll see if I make some more, you know, how long I play this. But this was just something that I wanted to get out here and show you guys, and maybe you'll enjoy it too. So hope you like this video. I'll see you guys next time.